Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Audit and Accounts Committee. It's 6:30, so we'll begin. I will start with apologies for absence from Councillor Tom and Councillor Chatburn. Are there any other apologies for absence or substitutions? I can't see any, so no. I think I'm supposed to have read the fire evacuation first, so I've got that in the wrong order. There are no fire alarms planned for this evening. If the alarm sounds, please evacuate the building immediately. The public exit is located at the rear of this room through reception, unless otherwise instructed, and meet in War Memorial Park. The meeting is being webcast live on the internet, and you can view it on YouTube after the meeting. Is that working, Phil? Brilliant. Microphones, please can I remind members and officers that in order to be heard clearly within the room and by those present on the webcast, you must speak directly into your microphone. And please switch your mobile phones off or turn to silent. Great, we've done apologies. Item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? I'm not seeing any, so that's great. Item 3, are there any urgent matters? Again, I'm not seeing any, so we'll move to item 4, which is the minutes of the Audit and Accounts Committee meeting held on Monday 26th of January in this room. Does the committee agree that the minutes of the meeting held are an accurate record? I'm getting some nods, so that's agreed. So I will just initial the minutes. Okay. Item 5, Internal Audit Progress Report, December to March 26. I'll ask Richard Bevan, the officer, to introduce the report. Please, Richard.
Thank you, Chair. This is a progress report for the work completed by the internal audit team between December and March, and also the current position with regards to outstanding audit recommendations as at the 16th of March. For audits completed, paragraph 3.1 on page 10 of my report shows the completed audits have received either a limited or reasonable assurance, and these reports are shown in full as appendices 1 to 3 to my report. Then the table starting on paragraph 3.2 on page 10 going through to page 14, that shows the other completed audits that received either full or substantial assurance. And as previously for those audits, we've just shown the number of recommendations made together with the key points of interest for the committee, together with the management responses from the relevant director or head of service. There is a link within the report to the audit SharePoint page, which if you wish to see the audit reports in full, then they're on there, should you so wish to. I just thought it's worth quickly mentioning, you will notice if you've read it that Appendix 2, the Wade Road Assets Report, we gave limited assurance. First time we've looked at Wade Road for quite a while, and as often happens, there's usually more to be found where we haven't been for a while. But I will say that since the report, we've had great work with the Wade Road team. We've had 29 of those recommendations have been noted as complete already, 12 of the significant ones on the report that you can see. So credit to the Wade Road officers there for their work in cooperation with us on that. Concerning the recommendations themselves, paragraph 4.1 on page 15 summarises the overall position of outstanding fundamental significant recommendations. The overdue recommendations are detailed in Appendix 4, and the remaining recommendations are detailed in Appendix 5. Concerning some of the recommendations on Appendix 4, you may note at the time of the report there was no response received. I have received responses from Environment and Community on some of those, which I can provide to the committee should you so wish. They just received just after my deadline to get the report to Phil to be submitted in time. So other than that, nothing else to add, just request the committee consider and comment on the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. I'll take comments or questions from councillors. Councillor Isaac.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Just on Appendix 2 and Wade Road, there was a problem, as I understand it, with the regarding the asset management, there's a comment there that the IT department is unable to change the database, and so there has to be 20,000. This is recommended. I think this is not item 5. There has to be a proposed £20,000 per annum investment in a new database. And I just wanted to understand to what extent you looked into that, and you've actually decided that that's right, and that we would have to spend that sort of money, and whether we are proposing to spend that money. It just seems strange to me that IT, the computer says no, and we're up to we're proposing to spend an extra 20,000 a year. Could you sort of clarify that?
Do you have a page number for everyone, John? 34. Page 34. Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, I'll take that one, Chair. Yes, to come back to you, Councillor Isaac, in terms of that recommendation, we've highlighted the issue. The solution in terms of the cost of 20,000 is the action agreed by the relevant officer. So we haven't looked at is that the correct amount of money to spend on such a solution, because that we would leave that with the technical officers in terms of addressing that recommendation.
Okay, so how do we follow this up further? Can you do that for us?
We can certainly do that if you wish, and get a response back to the committee. Yeah.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, John. Councillor Isaac, another question?
Yep. I think it's recommendation 10 in Appendix 2. I'm not quite clear what's been going on with the long-term hire of vehicles, because it makes reference to the fact that these should be procured under designated purchase orders. What's been happening to date?
So these are the vehicles, the ones that are on lease. It's just been carried over, according to contract standing orders, financial regs. They should be raising purchase orders for the additional cost. Recommendation 10. So that's one recommendation I've now noted as complete. So they've now raised the appropriate purchase orders going forward. It's one of the controls that they've now implemented.
So they're doing what they should be doing now. Good. Okay.
I had a question, if I may, before you, John, which was just in relation to it's the first time you've audited Wade Road for quite some time. I'm guessing at least 3 years, because that's what the report indicates. What other sites are on that sort of 3 or longer year cycle?
So when we say the Wade Road, that was part of this audit as well. Some of the field work did involve going out to some of the other satellite kind of state depots, if you like, Brighton Hill, places like that. So some of the asset checks, or that comes under the heading of Wade Road, did include some inspections at the other sites as well. So it was all included.
So anything we've learnt from this audit is being applied to the other sites, I guess, is the
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Isaac, you had another question.
Yeah, again on Appendix 2 and 16 about fire strategy plans. I think we're giving a target of September 2026. I'm not sure what's been going on previously, but have we had no fire strategy plans, and therefore is giving them till September, is that sort of being a bit sort of lenient in terms of something that might be said to be quite an urgent thing to get sorted?
It's recommendation 16, and I would just say, John, it's a great question and pertinent because of what happened at Down Grange.
Thank you, Chairman.
That one hasn't yet been. I haven't yet noted that one as complete. I mean, September, 6 months. I mean, yeah, maybe. Oh yeah. So I guess considering the amount of work that they've kind of got to do, we gave them until September. It's one that we can chase, considering the urgency to get it done quicker.
Can I suggest that the committee's recommendation or ask is that the lead officer on that tries to bring that forward, please. Councillor Tastain.
And just a question. So is it September to get the fire risk assessment done? Because that should be just quite straightforward. Or is it to actually get any recommendations complete that come out of the fire risk assessment?
From our point of view, it would have been just get it established. But again, we can follow it up as part of the your request. Yeah.
It looks like the risk assessment to me, Jackie. It looks like the start of the process. Thank you, Richard. Councillor Isaac.
One more on this section. Appendix 4, which lists all the overdue recommendations. How is it we get into a situation where something that's regarded as a significant category risk and was supposed to have been done in April 2025 is still not done? If one's looking at risks for an organisation like ours, you would say that cyber security is probably up there amongst the most risky aspects of our operation. And I'm sort of looking at that and thinking, in general terms, a concern about the extent to which our cyber security is being appropriately risk assessed and managed.
I totally agree. The deadlines for the recommendations are kind of agreed in good faith. It's the officer's best estimate at the time. From the audit point of view, we obviously have no control over when the work is completed. What we can do is to make sure that the progress or lack of is reported to the committee. On the cyber, one of the areas where I think from our point of view we're confident that they're doing as much as they can, as quickly as they can with the resources that they have. And it's just all we can do is report the current position to yourselves. So should you wish to take it up further, then you can do. But from our point of view, as I've included in my current cyber report, I think the position is probably as good as we could hope for.
Is there one in particular you were looking at, Councillor Isaac?
Well, the top three, there's one that's, the first one's supposed to have been done by April 2025. The one below that was August 2024. The one below that was August 2024. And then the next one is, well, that's not IT, so that's just those three really. I think as a member of this committee, I would like to suggest that we do support your team, Paul and Richard, because it seems to me that significant pieces of work, significant in their category of risk, ought not to be still undone after over a year.
It's a good point, John. Councillor Tastain. Oh, sure. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah, just to sort of come back on that, totally agree with you. What we do is to ensure that there is progress. I know that there's a date that's been missed, but I'd be more concerned if there was no action that had been carried out. So at least we are liaising with the relevant heads of services and directors and managers to ensure that we have progress of where they are. So we are aware that work is being done. I'd rather that than no work at all being done and we're not aware of them, which is why we bring this to the committee, so you're aware of the situation. And as we said before, that if there are any major concerns and you want to bring a relevant manager to the committee to ask, then we can arrange that as well.
Thank you, Paul. Before I go to Councillor Tustain, I would just say, you know, we talk about cyber risks here in this committee almost every meeting, certainly every other meeting. And we're going to move on to the next report at some point. But on page 87, that sets out a corporate risk register. And we've only got two in the red. We've got waste and recycling services, which has moved up the charts rather rapidly. But we also have cyber, which is still sat there, and it's a risk for all businesses, and in particular with the macro geopolitical environment and what's going on. I think you said earlier, one of you said earlier, they're doing everything they can in the order they can with the resources they have. And I appreciate the first 2 points, but I think the point for this committee is with the resources they have. And I'm thinking that this committee should perhaps be asking the head of paid service whether or not they are comfortable that we have enough resources in IT and or in cyber in particular, so that they can potentially accelerate their progress if we feel that they need to do that. That's just what was going through my head. But Paul, if you want to come back on that, and then I've got Councillor Tustin and I'll come to Councillor
Thank you, Chair. We are aware that IT have gone through a restructure and they do have a dedicated, Richard, I'm sure you can correct me if I'm wrong, they do have a dedicated resource on the cyber side of cyber issues. I don't know if there's anything more you could expand on that role, Richard, from your knowledge.
Yeah, the cyber, apologies to the officer, I can't remember the exact job title, but it is cyber security, and they're tasked with several of these bits of work in the recommendations, for example, the phishing campaign and stuff like that. So the recruitment of these posts obviously does take time, and I think these recommendations were probably made when the intention was to get the officers in post, and it takes time. They now have those officers in post, and as we've mentioned, you know, we are seeing the progress that's been made, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Understood. I guess the reassurance the committee is looking for is that the direction of travel is that the intention is that cyber will move out of the red on the risk register into the high oranges. I guess is the aspiration at the moment. Councillor, Paul.
Not quite, Councillor.
Not quite. Not yet.
Yeah, I think with cyber, I think it's acknowledged that we not just Basingstoke, but other organisations will always be playing catch up on cyber. So my gut feel would be I'd be surprised if we ever saw cyber drop to amber, because that's the very nature of how quickly cyber issues travel.
I thought that might be the answer. Whether that's a satisfactory answer, and that's no reflection on you, whether that's a satisfactory answer, I think is something that this committee and the council probably needs to think about a bit more carefully. But I hear what you're saying about the cyber environment generally in other organisations. I know we've got some expertise on this committee as well. I'm going to come to Councillor Tustain first, if I may, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. I was going back to the page 65 and those cyber, certainly particularly the first one. I was just reading through it, and there's two things that sort of are jumping out at me. Number one, this is about getting a lot of policies reviewed and rewritten. So it's actually quite, although it obviously requires a certain level of specialist knowledge, but it's actually policy writing. So it's that sort of admin task. And I'm also wondering, because if it's saying it's a whole bunch of them, whether this has become like a big lump of work, and whether that could be broken down a bit, which might mean it would get eaten away at a bit better. And that might be, I mean, I know it's talking, sort of getting to the micros of somebody managing their job, but it might be that something like that might be helpful to look at it to say what's going wrong here. What was the other thing? I was wondering if there are policies and things already in place and they just feel they need reviewing and getting brought up to speed, and especially if it was broken down, I wonder whether you'd find some of the risk levels of them might actually drop a bit, because they might be just saying it's just not quite up to date or something, and it might not be quite as catastrophic as a significant risk.
Thank you, Councillor Tustain. I've got 4 or 5 councillors all want to speak, and I've got Section 151 officer. And Paul, you're more than welcome to reply, but if you feel there's something strongly need to say, then go ahead. But otherwise, we can continue, I think, the conversation and then wrap up at the end. Adam, you go next.
I think just to clarify and Richard and Paul can correct me, but from my reading this, the update in March, the policies are completed, particularly for AI, and some of those they have been done. It's more around loading them onto our internal skills gate system and actually socialising them. They have come around to the wider leadership team and others to disseminate, but this is more about making sure people actually understand the policies rather than just having a policy there, which is obviously really important. So it doesn't mean this is definitely completed, but the policy bit is in place.
Councillor Katecha next, please. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned about some progress made. Can we have a written summary, 4 or 5 page summary on that, and so we can see what progress has been made on this cyber security issues? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Katecha. Have either of you got a view on that, or do we feel that the existing papers already covered the journey?
I was just going to, we're just discussing that because it's partly on to Paul's paper, but what came out of this year's cyber audit was the need to separate and to be able to do more detailed testing in specific areas. So that will cover, from our point of view, like be able to give assurance or otherwise on the specific areas. For example, network protection, malware, virus, and all different aspects. So that will help us going forward.
So you're auditing. So you're breaking the IT audit into bigger, smaller chunks.
So I think we've got about 4 instead of just the one cyber. We'll have about 4 separate audits, which will give us. Bear in mind, the resource we have in audit. It will help us to spread it out throughout the year and be able to give more assurance on the more technical areas.
That sounds like a sensible approach. Councillor Katecha, have you got any follow up on that, or are you happy with that approach?
Yeah, they've answered the question, but I don't have it in black and white. What we want to see is something in black and white, what they're doing, in more detail than we have here. That's what I'm asking for.
Okay, let's put that on hold while we just consider the rest of the discussion and see what the committee wants to recommend or think about afterwards. Councillor Tustain, I didn't give you a chance to come back to Adam, so I'll do that, and I'll move to Councillor Isaac, who was next, I think.
It ties in with Councillor Katecha's comment as well, actually, and would it be sensible to put in a column for where we've got these that are going on for a long time that shows a progress percentage?
That's not a bad idea. I'm always reluctant to. We've done quite a lot of work with. In fact, we haven't done much work at all. The officers have done a lot of work in listening to us and improving the layout of these reports so that we can get to the more pertinent issues more quickly and get a better overview of how these things work. So I'm hesitant to ask them to do more things, but let's keep that as a consideration on the table as well and let them comment in a second. I would just like to go to Councillor Isaac next, because otherwise I'll forget the councillors in the right order, if you don't mind, Richard.
So my feeling is that there are lots of references to IT in the reports. We as a committee can only have sort of a very distant understanding of what's going on, but I think our role is to sort of have a sense of where things are not being done as well as they might be, and that's my concern about that particular department of the borough. And given the critical nature of the work that they do, if there's a major problem, it affects the workings of the whole council and affects all our residents. So the fact that we've got a fairly straightforward but significant piece of work that's not been done for over a year, I'm not persuaded that by saying, well, they're making progress, that to me sort of excuses the individuals responsible for this. It's either done or it isn't done, and so that would be where I would be coming from on this.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Councillor Mears-Bound, you were next, I believe.
I just wanted to build on that really. If there's something for me, and I think it was 12 months ago, we had a longer list of than this, and we had a long debate about it, and we were told by officers that it was not these officers, other officers, that it was going to be resolved, resources were going to put in place, and I think that's part of the issue, isn't it? That there's a journey for us as a committee, but there's also a journey for the work. My feeling about the journey for us as a committee is we had a really long list that really concerned us. We were given some reassurance that resources were being put in place. Now, what feels like a year later, we've got what appears to be a long list of things that we are being told are overdue by over 6 months. And building on your point, we don't really have a handle on what is that progress, or actually, I don't understand when it's going to be finished. I've got new review dates, which are April 25, nothing here saying progress is going well and this will be completed and we expect it to no longer be amber in a date in the future. None of that at all. And I think that's the bit that makes me feel particularly uncomfortable. And I'm not expecting our audit team to answer that question. I'm expecting the head of IT to come up and say, this is what's happened, this is when it'll be finished, that's my commitment.
I think it's a good summary, Simon. Thank you. I think it's 2 years that we've had a long list of IT issues. And I think it has been shrinking, and I think that whoever's running that has to prioritise what they can do in what order, and inevitably some things get treated as less of an urgency or priority than others. They're not here to explain, but I believe we did ask them to come along, and it might have been the meeting that you chaired instead for me. I can't remember. Okay, but we have had. Yeah, we have. We could do that again, and/or I'm thinking we could seek some sort of written assurance from the head of pay service, or there's a number of routes we could take. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to say in the debate before we? Councillor Conquest.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with a lot of what's been said already. I think it's particularly concerning, not just that we're behind on so many issues, but that it's a moving target as well. Yeah. The threat today that we see is very different to what it was a year ago, because artificial intelligence is being utilised by bad actors everywhere. And it doesn't just apply to one area, it's across the board. So malware, firewalls, phishing, social engineering is all rapidly being made worse by AI, and it's accelerating. So the longer it takes us to catch up, just puts us actually further behind the target. So yeah, I think we need to have a concerted effort on this.
I think that's very pertinent. So, unless anyone has Paul, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just listening to what was being said and was going to suggest that if we can obtain a written response, we can get that to committee, so that'll be sooner than the next committee meeting for you. And if after that written response you feel that that's not appropriate, then we could then call the relevant officer to that next meeting, which is June, I believe. And also Richard and I can go away to see how we can come up with something that better informs the committee on these overdue outstanding recommendations.
I think that's sensible. I think we'll seek a written response. Richard?
I just thought it might be worthwhile adding, behind the columns that you see on my report, there are the columns of the previous reports. So where you see the latest comment, there's in some cases several previous comments for each audit committee prior to the one we're at the moment. So that gives a step by step, and it might be the case that there was no progress, but at least they reported there was no progress. And just for interest, the target date, kind of an unofficial rule that I follow is I will agree to a change in the completion date once, because the initial one is an honest, best guess, best guess by the officer. Circumstances change, so I will change it, but I'm very, very reluctant to keep changing it, because then you will never see that it's overdue. At least if we keep it once, you'll see that it's overdue. Hence, like the discussion we're having now, it highlights the issue that is
Can
long
we
overdue.
see? Thank you, Richard. Can we see the previous comments if we use the internet link that you provide, the Sinbad link that you provided?
No, that particular spreadsheet is protected because only myself and Paul.
You have the information if we want
but
to
I have
see
the
it.
information if you want it. Very easy to provide it.
Yeah, can I? Okay, so we'll ask for some sort of written reassurance from the director responsible for that section. I think I'll copy in Russell and the leader as well, and just say that I think, you know, the context here of the 2-year history, the accelerating environment that Councillor Conquest pointed out as well, and the overall risk register, I just think we can't take it seriously enough. And so we'll make that point in writing, and we'll see what written response we get. Richard, if you could think about how you might be able to produce the history of the comments for certainly for the cyber ones, or the IT comments, and produce something for Councillor Katecha that would meet his needs without meaning you've got to write a new paper, basically. So utilising what we've got, if that's okay, Samir, great. And Councillor Meansbound, do you want to add something?
I was just to look for, because there's something I like a sort of protocol and a rule that runs, and there's something about, as you quite rightly say, the 2 years history, the fact that we've got a collection in one theme that are over 6 months overdue. Because for me, there's something about that says actually whether there's a conversation that can happen between you guys and the chair that says actually, you know, what is the committee likely to want to support it, to just, you know, contrast. We've got a parking services one here as well, which we did invite to that meeting that I chaired while you were away, Chair. But there's something different from me for that one that says there's something about these that sort of it is this moving goalpost issue, isn't it? That says suddenly on page 67 with the parking services one, we've suddenly conflating something that could have been completed in July 2025 was moved to September 25, and now we're waiting for the impact of something that happened on the 27th of October past the original deadline. You know, that says to me this should be different. Whether it's no longer 6 months, because do you know what, something else is interacting with it after the original deadline that says this isn't as clear as it could be.
It's thank you, Simon. It's I think it's the nature of the accelerating environment. I think that's really concerning me. Councillor Isaac.
Just one more general point. There's a question to Paul and Richard about the work that you do. It seems to me, being a layman when it comes to IT, that I guess that as a highly technical subject, it's one that where you have to rely particularly on the reassurance given by the technical experts in the IT department in terms of coming to your conclusions about the extent to which things are being done as we would want. Is that fair? And if that is the case, then does that also raise the question of to the extent to which the IT department may be marking its own homework too much, and that we are in need, or does the IT department make use of external advisors to so that you can have the reassurance from a third party that the work that our systems are as secure and up to date as they need to be?
With regards to sort of third party the assurance, the IT services, they're required to comply with the Public Services Network, not regulations, but it's the PSN. They have to be compliant in order to be able to process information. There's also the PCI compliance. Without compliance to that, we cannot process customer purchase card data, so we wouldn't be able to take payments. So all these standards that they have to comply with give us the third party assurance that they comply. I don't know the technical details of it all, but by getting the certificate of compliance, that gives us external assurance. With regards to the work that we do, yes, you're right. There is a certain reliance on the officers. We've always had good relationship with the IT staff. Not to the point where they will pull the wool over our eyes, but it's very mutual arrangement. And of course, we now have the use of AI ourselves in order to be able to help us with our tests. And that gives, from my point of view, it enables me, as with this cyber audit I've done, it enables me to be able to ask more technical questions that I wouldn't have been able to, because I don't have the knowledge of the network monitoring, but I'm able to get access to it. The use of AI allows me to ask questions of the IT officers, and then they're able to respond, accordingly.
I did exactly the same thing, actually. That's great.
Paul?
And I think hopefully, by the very nature that we've given a reasonable assurance, gives comfort to the committee that we are not hoodwinked, as Richard made reference to, because if we were, we'd probably have given you a full of substantial assurance, so reasonable assurance identifies it.
But on that, there are various levels of assurance, and there's fundamental, there's significant, and there's reasonable. So we're not at the top tier of assurance that you're giving us in relation to something as critical to the organisation as the IT department.
So we do have substantial. No, reasonable, isn't it? I'm reading it all the way around. Yeah, okay. We've got reasonable assurance. Councillor Conquest.
Thank you. Two things. Regulations are notoriously slow at catching up with reality. So I think that relying on certification isn't necessarily going to put us in the correct position where we want to be. I think the idea of external checking is very good, and I think that's what we could be doing with an external cyber audit. And it's good to hear that AI is being used. Depends on how you use it and whether the IT team themselves are using it to figure out what they should be doing.
Thank you, Councillor Conquest. So I want to wrap that up now, if we can, if everyone's happy to. We're going to ask for some sort of written assurance from the and a summary of our discussion from the director responsible, copied to the head of pay service and the council leader, and I think we'll make some suggestions rather than strong recommendations that they reconsider the resource in that team and whether it is sufficient to keep up with the accelerating pace of bad actor development in this space, and whether or not we would recommend that they consider some sort of external audit, IT cyber audit, that probably goes beyond the regular penetration testing and other stuff that happens under PCI DSS and or the other public sector networks one that you mentioned. Does that cover it all, do we think? Because I think the other thing I just wanted to emphasise was that the audit work you're doing is great, thank you, and this is not a criticism of the audit function and what you're doing. It's not a criticism of the IT team either and what they're doing. You've reassured us that they're doing the best with what they have. I think the concern of this committee is, do they have enough? And in an area that is particularly in the spotlight, I mean, Microsoft had a big outage for 24 hours not so long ago. CrowdStrike, listed NASDAQ 100 company, had a big outage last year. It's not, no one's immune to it. Marks & Spencer's got hacked and so on. So I think it is, by its very nature, the focus of the risk register right now, for me, and probably for everyone in this organisation. So is everyone happy with that as an approach? Or Councillor Means-Bound, do you want to add? Fine, let's move on to another point. Thank you everybody for that discussion on cyber.
Well, it's just funny. There's just something about the level of reassurance, isn't it, and comfort. Because if I was to move on to page 70, we then have another cluster that's all in licensing, where the audit was completed in October 25. The target date was November 25. They're being reported as 4 months overdue. 2 of them are fundamental, and we have no update. And I absolutely hear what you're saying, that, you know, I'm not saying this is what you do, which is say, do you know what, I've got 4 days to put a report into a committee. Have you got any updates? You're only given four days notice. But actually, for some 2 fundamental items that were due to be completed in November 2025, I can sit here as a committee member and it looks like nobody has updated you guys on progress at all.
Thank you, Simon. I would just add, I think, Richard, you said you've had some updates on this one in particular from officers after your report came in. I would add as well, this is an area where a long-standing officer retired, I think, and so there's been a changing of the guard, so there may have been a resource gap. None of this is excuses, Simon, it's just context. Richard?
Yes, so in answer to your question, yeah, the licensing recommendations have been noted as either complete or there has been progress, but it's reported to me, given to me after the deadline for the committee. So again, happy to share that that information. If you do look on our SharePoint page, that information, the current update will be available, but I'm happy to send it separately if that's easier.
Thank you, Richard. I know people can't always get stuff in by the deadline, because it's happened to me, by about 15 minutes. I know the council's a stickler over times, so but it would be helpful if we'd managed to get the comments into the report beforehand. Does anyone else have anything else on any other questions or comments on any other aspects of the report? No, I think we're done. So can I ask the committee, does the committee agree that the report has been considered, commented on, and note the contents of the report? Thank you, that's agreed. We'll move on to item 6, review of the corporate risk register. I'll ask Paul Gundry to introduce the report. Obviously, we've already dipped into it a little bit, but Paul.
Thank you, Chair. This paper is to present the committee with the current position of the corporate risk register. It is in my usual format, so you're hopefully used to seeing this template. And it also includes a diagrammatic version of the corporate risk register in paragraph 3.2 on page 87. Just want to highlight paragraph 2.2, where there have been 2 risk score changes from the in the register from when I last presented this back in September. I wasn't going to add any more to that, Chair, other than to ask the committee to consider the report.
Thank you, Paul. I think the progress on information governance is good and reassuring. I'm not quite sure I understood all of the movements in waste and recycling, in that it's quite an area of quite high change for us right now. But on my reading of that, it seemed like we might be going to judicial review because of something Hampshire County Council has not done. Is that right? So Tustain, please.
Yes, so Hampshire are building another multi recycling facility. That's what known as the MRF, but it's way behind, and that's to do the yoghurt pots and all those sorts of trays and things. So in a sense, this is a risk that could fall on the borough. That's actually outside of our control. I think that's about sums it up, really.
Good old British justice. We could be hung for something that we have no control over. Well, sorry, something we're responsible for, but we're relying on someone else to deliver. Okay. Has anyone got anything they want to say about that, or we just? I guess we have to accept it, but
I think the only answer to that is where it would be a case where our responsibility is collection, so collecting and having it separated. And I think the ridiculous situation I think that other authorities might find themselves is they collect it and it goes off and then just goes to the incinerator anyway because it's not been recycled. Whereas what we're doing is waiting for the MRF. So that would be in our control. That might need to go to the waste team and find out a bit more about that.
Thank you, Councillor Tustain. We'll raise that with the waste team. Adam.
I think if it's about specifics like that, the correct scrutiny would probably be Resident Service Committee, I would believe.
Thank you, Adam. You're right. Hang on, that's Jackie's committee. Okay. Do you want to pick that up in that committee, Shaki? Are you happy to do that?
Yeah, we can get. We're actually going to do a proper waste review, so we can make sure that's in there as well.
Perfect. We can take that off my action list then, Phil. Thank you. I'll take comments and questions on the corporate risk register. And Richard.
Yes, I've got a comment. It says a 6 monthly review. I'm looking at RR4, which is finance. And I know Basingstoke are extremely strong in finance and are probably the only authority in the country who can justify a medium risk. But nevertheless, since you made your budget, which you were doing a lawful balanced budget, there's the geopolitical risk, and which is immense because it's interest rates, it's building materials, it's fuel, it's heat, light. And I wondered how you're keeping this under review and what you're doing about it, because having made your budget on one level, there's no doubt, however long this lasts, that inflation and interest rates are going to be completely, and expenditure is going to be completely out of line with the budget you've already made.
That's a great question, Richard. Thank you. Adam.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, very good question, Richard. We are obviously seeing it particularly in fuel prices for waste fleet, and we're keeping that under review at the moment. We're quite fortunate that we don't have borrowing, so interest rate is probably a positive in a way in terms of treasury management, obviously, which is later on in terms of that. But you're right. There are risks and inflationary pressures within there. But likewise, when I started, I think it was 4 days before the Ukraine Russian conflict, and that obviously had far-reaching consequences and still does, and we weathered the storm then. So, but yeah, we are well aware, and as I say, it's a point in time, and we'll keep it under review as we get there. In terms of this financial year end, we're in a positive position still, and expect that to be the case at Outturn. Obviously, year end is tomorrow, but yeah, we will see and keep it under review through 26, 27.
I hear what you're saying, Adam. I think I don't know. I did live through the oil shock of the 70s, but I was too young to remember the impact. I wasn't reading the FT by then. I have read a few things recently that have frightened me about the impact of, let's call it Trump's war, and I'm not sure if that finishes in a month, then I think we're in for a bout of inflation and higher interest rates and so on. If by the time you review this risk register in 6 months' time, that war's still going on, I think it's a whole different ball game. I don't know if anyone else has a view on that, but I think 6 months might be too long to wait to review that. I don't know. I'm not talking about reviewing the budget, but I'm talking about reviewing its position on the risk register.
I was thinking that was what I picked up, the 6 monthly review, and I think that certainly the committee might like to have a report back at its next meeting and at every meeting for the time being on the geopolitical risk and what the situation is, whether the financial risks have considerably worsened.
Are you happy to make that as a verbal declaration, Adam, or as each meeting? Or I don't really want to put you in a position of having to write a new report, but
we provide quarterly monitoring on both the capital and revenue budget to Cabinet and onto Council. So I'm not sure there's something additional on that basis. Happy to do so and provide a copy of that. I get your point, Richard. We'll obviously keep it under review as we do, and we do monthly monitoring anyway. And as we go through, and as we are keeping track daily in terms of fuel costs and things for our waste fleet and those significant costs there, obviously to make sure that we're aware of what's going on and tracking that. So we are doing things. But I can bring something back if you believe it's necessary.
I think that's a fair answer, Adam. I guess another way of asking the question would be so we're looking at page 87 and that square chart. if item 4, finance and budgets, moved up into box 5, into the red, and still on impact 3, what would that do or change about how you report to cabinet and that 3-month cadence and all that stuff that already exists? I guess that's another way of thinking about it, rather than asking, would that change your perspective?
I think, as I'm saying, as I've said, we're monitoring the situation daily and monitor budgets quite carefully, as would be expected. It will change as a risk, undoubtedly, but I mean, I can provide an update to this committee if you wish for that risk. I'm not sure if I'm necessarily answering your question here in terms of that, but we're talking about large scale risk on there. But as I said, we didn't do such a thing during the Ukraine crisis where prices went up exponentially there as well, and that wasn't, it's not. I don't see it as any different risk to that, and whether it's necessary to do something more frequent than we already do on a monthly basis anyway.
Thank you, Adam. Your answers are fair. I am left wondering, I am left wondering that if you're doing all of that and you're reviewing it daily, what's the point of the risk register? If it doesn't impact how we think, why is it even on there? But Richard, you had a follow-up point.
I think I'd be happy with your quarterly monitoring if that's so, but if things accelerate and the risk level actually changes, then you ought to do a more immediate report to this committee on that situation.
Okay, let's keep it under review. Councillor Tustain.
I was going to say, I mean, having attended the recent resilience sort of session that the council put on, I think it's about emergency planning and resilience. I think are probably more of our key things we need to be focusing on, and then whether or not we need to make sure we've got a pot of money for that stuff.
Thank you, Councillor Tustain. Any other comments on the risk register or finance and budgets and where it sits in there? Or I didn't attend the resilience session, but I did note, I think it was in the earlier paper, I should have noted, I did want to pass thanks on to business continuity, who have made a lot of progress with their recommendations. And obviously we focused in on what was red and what's stale and on the list and has been there for a while, but business continuity is a hard sell within an organisation because people have their day jobs to do and they don't really very good at turning their heads to disaster planning. But I was impressed with the way that has been picked up and that has been dealt with, and the assurance has gone up and the list of items for review or fundamental has gone down. So please, I will write to the director responsible. I think it's Katie, isn't it? But please pass our thanks on as a committee as well for that. Any more questions on risk register generally? No, I think we're done. Okay. Does the committee agree the report has been considered, commented on, and to note the contents of the report? Thank you. That's a yes. We'll move on to item 7, which is the internal audit plan, and I'll ask Paul Gundry to introduce the report. Please, Paul.
Thank you, Chair. This report is asking the committee to approve for once rather than note and comment. And I'm looking for the committee to approve the internal audit charter and the internal audit plan for 26-27. I'll start with the internal audit charter. This is the framework document which is for the conduct of internal audit, and the areas highlighted in paragraph 2.2.1 gives you the key areas where the charter focuses on. I have made some changes to the charter compared to the one that was approved by the committee this time last year, and that's because we've got the new global internal audit standard that replaces a public internal audit standard, and that's highlighted in 2.1.2. For ease of the committee, I've provided 2 appendices. Appendix 1 is a clean copy of the charter for 26-27, and Appendix 2 is a copy that's got the highlighted changes. That's internal audit charter. Looking at internal audit plan, this details the audit assignments that are to be carried out during 26-27, and that the Appendix 3 on page 145 will give you a list of the audits that I'm looking to have carried out next year, and that enabled me to provide my annual opinion on the Council's risk management, control and governance arrangements. The 26-27 plan is taken from the 3-year strategic plan, and that highlights the audits for the next 3 years. I am aware that local government reorganisation comes into that, but I do have a 3-year plan there just in case something happens, and Basingstoke continues past April 28. That 3-year strategic plan can be found in Appendix 4 on page 147. I wasn't going to add anything else, Chair. I just asked the committee to comment and approve both documents if they could, please.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you for providing the marked up version. It's most helpful in spotting what I think were sensible changes on the way through. I think Councillor Tustain was first, then Councillor Isaac.
Thank you. I was looking at on page 145 where we've got the frequency of audits, and we've got some of them, even though they're supposed to be sort of every 2 or 3 years, they don't seem to have been done for a while. And I know that they might be a bit like the Wade Road ones. This gets going. The cemetery and public health burials, for example, hasn't been done since 2019-20. And what was it? And the other one here is 22. Oh, the IT asset management. And there might be some others there as well, but just what's the delay, and is this a resourcing issue?
No, I carry out with the Solicitor Richard. We carry out a risk assessment each year when creating the plan, and there are some audits that we've identified we haven't actually looked at, and felt that we should add them to the audit plan list. So we've got some new areas on there. So, for example, we've in terms of the ones where we've changed the frequency, because I did have a period where if they were a low risk, we didn't review them. But we felt that now would be the time that we should bring them on and bring them every 3 years. But we've also added some new audits into the audit plan. For example, we've got the transparency agenda, insurance, tree stock management, artificial intelligence has already been mentioned. So it's an evolving 3-year strategic plan. So we might come to this time next year and our risk assessment might change, and that might bring new areas onto the internal audit plan. So we try to keep it constantly evolving.
Councillor Isaac.
Yeah, well, echoing Councillor Tustain, I noticed that, again, the IT theme, that the network security, including cyber corporate risk, is rated as high risk. It's supposed to be done every year, and the last time it was audited was in 22-23. So just sort of flag that up, Paul.
The reason for that is that we've got the corporate risk and the corporate risk register. We worked on the basis we do those every year. So the reason why I've dropped the cybersecurity into the network security audit is because last time we did it was Richard has completed the cyber audit, but again trying to break down those particular areas of the cyber audit, we felt that we should do the network security, which is more focused. And again, although we had network security in part of the cyber audit that Richard's done this year, we wanted to give that dedicated audit focus to it. So if you wanted to look at the dedicated audit focus on network security, that would have been 22-23, but it was previously covered as part of the corporate risk audit that's carried out.
You're going to do the network assessment.
It will be done during 26-27. We just need to finalise which quarter. That obviously waiting for the committee to approve the plan, and once that's been approved, we will then look to map it out over the 4 quarters of the year.
I'm not seeing any other questions, so if the committee is okay with that, I'm going to ask the committee to agree to approve the internal audit charter for 26-27. That's agreed, thank you. And then I'm going to ask the committee to approve the internal audit plan for 26-27, which will include the network security audit. Is that agreed? Agreed, thank you. I'll move on to item 8, which is the Treasury Management Q3 25-26 report, and I'll ask Adam Swain to introduce the report. I will just say thank you to the internal audit team. Thank you for your time, giving up your evening, and for the work you do. Thank you. Adam.
Thank you, Chair. So as this report sets out, it's the Treasury Management performance to the end of December last year, so it's slightly out of date. It's just to do with the timings of this committee. The position there was a forecast income of 5.31 million, which is ahead of our forecast income in the budget, and additionally the expected rate of return is 4.29%. As we're getting towards the year end, I've been looking at where we think we're going to land, so I can give the committee a bit more of an update, and it's looking like actually net income might be around 5.6 million, so again slightly higher than we thought in December. Part of that is to do with sort of interest rates that we've managed to secure on some of our recent borrowing, which is generating additional income, and also just having slightly higher balances than the forecast as well. So that was all I was going to say on this report, but it is a positive position, and yeah, good work by the team internally who obviously oversee and manage this.
I'm happy to take questions or comments on the Treasury Management report. Councillor Tustain.
Obviously, we were talking about the risk of everything that's going on geopolitically, but I think because where we've got most of our funding still in our risk-averse way, it's actually protecting us. Is that right?
Yeah, we have quite a lot of fixed term sort of investments, particularly with local authorities this year, as we discussed at the last committee, which has been quite good, and say the money market funds as well, quite diversified, which kind of mitigates that risk. So moving away from some of the higher the sort of bond funds, and that has helped. Although the bond fund performance has been fairly consistent this year in terms of recovering some of the loss over the last few years, which is partly to do with the gilt yields.
But when interest rates go up, bond prices fall, right? So we have got an ongoing risk to capital while we're liquidating at the moment.
Yes, at this stage, although the statutory override still applies until 29, so we do have a few years until we need to make a decision to move out or recognise those sort of unrealised losses, which I know we've covered previously in this committee, but yeah, so that is a fair point. But at the moment they've held fairly steady. We haven't seen a significant change, but that might change over coming months.
So just for everyone's benefit, the statutory override means we don't have to take capital losses on bond sales into our profit and loss account when we report. You're talking with I can't remember the name of our investment advisors at the moment, it eludes me, but you talk to them regularly, Mark talks to them regularly, right, about pattern of liquidation of funds. I'm just conscious that we've got the Aquadrome coming up, and you're far more up to speed with capital realisation plans to pay for that.
Yeah, we've kind of liquidated what we planned to liquidate at this stage to fund those sort of things, and the remaining two, the property fund and the one bond fund we've not got intentions to dispose of those in the near term at least.
That's good news, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions on the Treasury Management report? In that case, I will ask, does the committee agree? Oops, that's the wrong one. Does the committee agree to note the Treasury Management 2025-26 Q3 report? Is that agreed? That's agreed. Thank you, Adam. We'll move on to item 9, Housing Benefit Subsidy Certification Report for the year ended 31st of March 2025. I have a question. I have to ask it before you produce the report, Adam. How much did we pay KPMG to find £7.60 of error?
Let's just say they haven't invoiced us yet, which is unusual, but as I've discovered. But yes, too much, unfortunately. Let's say, yeah, this report is actually, for once, the work was completed in October, so it's very from last year, because they actually did the work on time. But yeah, very little found in the subsidy audit, which again is credit to the team. Yeah. We spent £27.6 million last year on benefits payments to and yeah, to find £7.60 is positive. Obviously, it's a sample based audit, but it does show the very good work that that Tony and her team do to manage this.
Again, I think it's thanks from the committee to that team, and yeah, remarkable on such a large distribution of money that there's so few errors. So yeah, all credit to the team. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this report? In that case, I will move that from the chair. Does the committee agree to note the letter from KPMG relating to the certification of housing benefits subsidy claim for the year ended 31 March 2025? That's noted and agreed. Thank you. We'll move on to item 10, which is the audit and accounts work programme. Someone's been busy filling that in. Thank you, whoever did that. We often have a glimpse into the future, and we know what's coming. But this seems quite comprehensive. Okay. And the property report's 6 monthly now, isn't it? So that will drop in there. Okay. So that's a busy old year for the committee ahead. So I didn't have anything else to add to that. So are the committee happy to note the work programme? Noted. Thank you. It just leaves us with the final item, which is the action tracking log. Councillor Isaac, you had a question last committee meeting about how we plan and use reserves, and I did write to the portfolio holder and the Section 151 officer in January. I did get a reply, I think. Did I share that with you, John? I've got a horrible feeling. I will check it after this and check that I've shared that with you, because I think I did, but I'm a bit fuzzy in the head today, so I will double check and make sure. I think that's everything. So it is 7:37. I'll bring the meeting to a close. Thank you everybody for coming and for your input. Sure, Councillor Isaac.
Yeah, so this is your last outing as the chair of the committee, and I'm pretty confident I would speak for the rest of the committee in saying that I think you've done a really good job, and it's your politics aside, your departure from the council is a loss, and so well done with all the work you've done.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. It is my politics that we should all be able to work together, so that delights me actually. Mine too. Good. Good. And you win the prize this year for the most questions, so thank you for keeping the pulse of the committee moving. That is now 7:38, so we will wrap it up there. Thank you very much. Thank you.